And the on button is
on this side.
There's the button.
Where?
So like I was right there.
Oh, you know how to work it, fella?
There it is.
You're already recording.
Oh.
Are we?
Hey, yeah, I do.
Welcome to Barcaldine, the friendliest town in the West, a home of colourful characters, a vibrant community and a rich history. One of the foundations of our town, Barcaldine State School, is not short of history, celebrating its 125th year of service. Our school started its humble beginnings with its foundation in 1887 by Arthur Moll Francis, with headmaster Peter John McDermott. Enrolled were 164 students. By the end of 1887, the enrolments had ballooned to 262 students. Our little school flourished over the years and provided a great learning environment, which is still a shining example of community spirit and engagement today.
Today we're going to explore the history in our school.
Looking at the buildings and the facts in this documentary.
Consider the history documents that will...
What are you guys doing?
We're making a film behind our school.
And you're ruining our shot.
I'm sorry. What type of documentary?
A historic documentary?
Historical. That sounds boring.
Boring? It is not boring. How dare you? It is important stuff.
I don't doubt that, but you can make it interesting.
How?
I know. You could get stories from people who have already been in the school. You know, creating a human element and showing the audience characters who created the foundations of this school.
That's a pretty good idea.
Excellent even. I like it.
So welcome to our school, Barcaldine State School. Let us find the stories and the characters that made our school what it is today.
I came to Barcaldine in 1953 as a domestic science teacher.
It'd just be, what, Prep 1, Prep 2, Prep 3, then Grade 1.
Prep school? I didn't go to prep school.
They had a couple of prep classes
Grade
when I
1.
first started.
That helps us, Claire. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that Prep, well, it might have been only Prep 2 and Prep 3.
Barcaldine State School, I started grade 1 in 1945.
Well, I think I started in 1945.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble remembering because in those days they just didn't have grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They had Prep 1, Prep 2, and one stage they had Prep 3 and Prep 4. And I'm not quite sure how long they lasted,
Yes,
but I'm pretty sure it was 1945.
I was nearly 6 when I started school because you had to turn 6 within the first month at school, and because my birthday was in March I had to have that extra year. And I can't remember prep school. I thought I only started grade 1 and went through to grade 7 at scholarship.
I was surprised when I came because I had to teach on wood stoves, and in Brisbane we only had gas and electric stoves, but we did have one electric stove. Now this was the actual domestic science room, and it was on high blocks over on the left of the state school over there.
I attended the school here up to what was called junior then, which is year 10, and there wasn't 11th and 12th year here, so I was sent away to boarding school to finish my education, and then I went to Teachers College after that. At the time Margaret came along.
I went from grade 1 to grade 12 here. My grade 12 year was the first grade 12 year here in 1965. We had 9 in the class.
Well, we're just talking about it here. We found a couple of the old Burdekin plums here. Parker tracked a few down over here beside the old ex-principal's residence. Now these are one of the main sources of nourishment outside of school hours. Vitamin C, B and everything else in it.
Yep,
Guaranteed to clear of worms.
Yep.
You could end up with worms too if you got a wormy one, but if you're caught with them, it was automatically 2 cuts and straight to the office.
Straight to the office.
Straight to the head teacher's office.
I arrived in 1971. Oh, shush!
I think it was 1993. I only came in grade 3.
1980 I started prep and went all through...
Hey, when you went to school?
Yeah, 1980, prep.
Oh, sorry.
And then right through to the old state school and then moved over here.
Mum's grandmother was Rebecca Cook, and then she had a daughter called Phyllis and she
Phyllis
married
Rogers.
Anderson.
Yeah.
And then Mum went, and then we three girls went. Yeah.
We're always turning up in the same colours. And then we look at one another, start laughing.
Because we went to school together and we were friends all the time.
When I came back, then I went to Teachers College, and when I came back to teach, I went to taught grade 1 in the same room I had been in grade 1 in, and it hadn't been painted. It had all those little murals. It's the room at the Heritage Centre with all the murals on the wall, and they were still there, just as they were when I was in grade 1.
How do you think they came to school?
On a dinosaur. How about walk to school?
They walked to school?
Yeah, that's what I said. And they could have rode a horse. On a camel or a camel or a magic person.
A magic what?
Magic person. You know magic person?
There were some children come from Jericho every day too by bus to Barcaldine State School.
We used to come down on the bus from Jericho. Neville Brown, he was a bus driver.
Hour and a half in an old bus.
Mike Winfield read all the way.
When we were at school, they started the school bus runs for the first time, and Freddie Brown, his father had the bus run that went out to Lochnagar, and it was called the Monkey Bus because it was a truck with seats along the sides. It didn't have proper bus seats. And at Christmas time, the kids did a collection and collected money to buy a Christmas present, and they brought him a brush and comb set. And when he took his hat off to receive the present, he had very bald head. They'd never seen his head.
We're sailing along there one day, dirt road, and it wet. And next minute the bus went off the road. He done a full 360, old Brownie, in that bus, shaped her up and put her straight back on the road. And never missed a beat.
This is the year before I was
Linda. The kids are so bad everywhere. The floor and on the teachers on the ground.
No aircon.
He just kept sailing the road.
We used to climb out the window of the school bus and walk along the side of it so the driver couldn't see us. And we'd get on the back of the school bus and eat all the fresh fruit and vegetables that were Mr. Brown, the bus driver, used to take down the line to the railway workers. So we got into trouble for that a bit. We got 6 of the best.
Old Dougie, he didn't like walking up the stairs. He couldn't walk up the stairs. He hated heights. Little fat fella, and he had to go up the stairs. He used to go up backwards like this. The first day, his old man dropped him off in an old ute here. Old Greg was young Dougie was playing up and crying and carrying on. So the old man had enough, and he went back to the ute, grabbed the old axe out, and said, "You get to bloody school, or you're going to get this." And old Dougie started going, but he couldn't climb the stairs. Yeah, he was scared of heights.
He convinced him, didn't he, to stay at school.
Yeah.
Showed him the axe.
I kept saying to Brownie, "Oh, Jesus, getting hot here, Brownie."
Oh, the motor.
Shut up, he said. Oh, no, man, I can't sit here any longer. Too hot. Lifted her up, she's on fire. I jumped out, and you were trying to kick the back windows out. The bus was that old, you couldn't kick the windows out. They were out in the scrub because Brownie's fighting the fire. Me and even Crocker with blankets. The bus went into the bush.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. We used on the bus when the car hit us.
Yeah.
There was no lawns in those days, and we were mostly barefooted, and I can tell you the sand was pretty hot.
Yes. And we'd be standing in the hot sun in parade, and we'd be stamping on the, what would you call it, marching on the ground, because most of us had bare feet, and the sand was so hot, and they'd go on with their speeches, and we'd be standing there in this hot sand, marching on the spot.
No lawns, no grass. There was a great big shed, and the teachers used to stand up on the veranda, and it was all sand. So the boys used to water it to stand there.
It was extremely hot. We had no air conditioning, and I can clearly remember taking the students out, a group of students, like you'd often take them downstairs for a drink. You'd go down yourself because it was just so hot. And there was a beautiful cooler of water underneath the school. And I can remember riding home my first week to my parents saying, The water out here is beautiful, and when it's cool, it's just lovely.
Well, we had a pommy teacher. He could be coming back too, Mr. Krim, and he loved wearing one of those tweed
coat. Summer, winter, spring. No, what are the others? Summer, winter, spring, autumn. Autumn. All the time.
And he never felt the cold, but he never really showed that he felt the heat either. So we thought we were smart one day. We all decided to close the room up, close all the windows up. And when he walked in, this is the middle of summer, and we see how long he'd last with this tweed coat on. He lasted all right. We were absolutely wrecked. We had sweat pouring out of us. He never let anyone turn the fans on. He made us sit there. He was a weight to us, you know. Yeah. In the winter time, we tried the opposite. We opened the classroom up, thinking that he's got to be able to feel the cold. It was a freezing day. It was a winter's day. Probably about 5 or 6 degrees outside early in the morning. Yeah. Frost everywhere. And he wouldn't let us close any windows up then. So we had him. He had us beat. So we just took it then and we said, no, the man's too tough.
One of those Gary Walsh stories is, at the old school, it used to be quite hot. There were gaps in the floorboards and there were ceiling fans, and that was pretty good, but it was fairly warm. And sometimes I'd be known to slide my shoes off because it would be a bit hot in there. And Gary had a bit of a habit of taking said shoes and taking them out and putting them on the daybook outside the principal's office, from where I would have to retrieve them.
I remember one that which I thought I was helping the class, because they're fairly shy, so I thought, oh, I'll make it a bit more exciting for them. So I said, before we start this, I think it was biology, Dale Davenport was the teacher. Dale Whale.
Was that grade 5?
You've got to get the right term. Yeah. So I said, he hadn't arrived yet, so I said, what I'll do, I'll hop in the box on the floor, which was there, I think the computer was brought in, and it was all shredded paper. So I said, I'll get in the box, right, and you put the paper on me. Right?
That's only Gary could do because he was a small
guy. Yeah, I was a runner. So I said, I'll get in the box, you put the paper on me, then what'll happen is I'll jump out like after he starts the lesson, and you all laugh, right? And make sure you laugh, because otherwise I'm going to get in trouble. Okay, so it's a joint joke. So anyway, it's summer, it's like November, it's hot as hell, and they put the paper on me, I start to sweat. And it was like only after a few minutes, I started to shuffle a bit, do this.
We laughed at that bit.
Yeah, but you laughed at that, and the paper was rustling, and Dale started getting a bit panicky, because his paper's moving in the box, it was supposed to be empty. And then I thought, I can't hold any longer, so I just jumped on and yeah, like this, with all the paper off me. And he got the biggest fright. And the classmates, they just sat there. Didn't say a thing. Well, office.
We were on the school camp down at Boona, at the outdoor ed centre there, and Gary and a mate of his, Stewie Church, thought that they'd have a little wander away from the accommodation where they were supposed to be. But it was on a hill, and when you go outside and you look up a hill on a dark night with the moon, you can see figures like you see in the movies creeping along. Here's Stewie Church and Gary Walsh sneaking off. So it was the old, oi, come here. And I sat nice and snug in my down to -5 sleeping bag, and they stood at my doorway, and it was freezing for quite some time, till it was, please, miss, if we promise not to leave, can we go back to bed? Yes, so there's been a few Gary Walsh stories. Thanks, Gary.
I've got a favourite teacher. There's some teachers I would rather not meet again. Yeah, Miss Mara was one, but poor thing, she's passed away now. But she used to hit us over the knuckles with the edge of the ruler.
Dot Mara would be mentioned in every interview that you'll do here. She was one.
She was a legend teacher here.
Why is that? What did she get up to?
Oh, she was a pretty strict teacher, eh? She
Yeah.
didn't like you putting your hands on the desk like this. You know, you had to keep your hands away from the desk.
Or shoulders back.
Yeah, if you slumped your shoulders, you got straightened up with usually a knuckle in the middle of your back, or a ruler.
Yep.
Yeah. Put your fingers on the desk like that, you'd get it across your knuckles. Eh?
Yep.
You know, she was pretty tough.
And you'd be sitting there and might not have been sitting up straight, so she'd get a biro and just jab it into your spine. You sit up straight. Epidural.
Yeah, that wasn't very pleasant. And then there's a Max Young, he was the headmaster. I mean, not in one of the high school teachers. He was a good teacher, but yeah, could have been a bit rough occasionally.
But I didn't mind that because I thought it taught you a lot of respect. And if you did get the cuts or anything like that, you deserved it. That's what I thought anyway, you know. But you never got hurt, and it was just basically teaching you the rules of life, and it stood you in good stead years later in life.
We consider ourselves very, very lucky that our whole, in our whole class that there's no one deceased.
Yeah, especially year 6 when I remember Kylie throwing a hammer at us.
It was called the cups in those days,
Yeah.
and it never hurt us one little bit, you know.
The cane.
It did us good.
Cane,
Discipline
sis.
was a fantastic thing. Yeah, the cane.
The cane.
Yes. Yeah, I remember getting that once, but I can't remember what I did to deserve that. What did I ever do to deserve that? I don't know.
Well, I remember, talking about the cane, I remember this instance very well. We were all lined up along the front veranda in front of the head teacher's office. We were all in trouble because we'd been throwing each other around in the basketball court. And one of the blokes up the front, he was a fairly solidly built bloke, and he decided to grab the cane off the head teacher and he broke it in front of me, broke it in half.
Bobby went in one day and broke all the principal's canes individually. Said, now what are you going to use?
He grabbed Junior, marched him into the office.
The Gucci.
He said, now open that cupboard up. And when he opened the cupboard up, there's about 30 of these canes, all different sizes. And he said, pick another one and pick a big one. Of course, you can imagine what we all said out on the veranda. We're going to kill him.
My dad never said cane.
No, a cane was actually a piece of bamboo, probably about that long. Yeah. And it really hurt because the principal would actually flick it on your hand, and that's stuff.
Ow! Did you get the cane?
No, I didn't get the cane. I was a very good student.
If I was back there, I would have got the cane heaps. What's a cane?
Chase? Could do, mate.
One of our teachers, I don't know what a given name was, but we used to call her Fatty Collins, and she'd hold three 12-inch rulers together. They made more noise than anything else, but she'd come along the class and she'd smack you on the back of the knuckles with them, and you'd almost laugh because it didn't hurt but made a lot of noise.
This Noel Lip was our French teacher. We used to give Noel a bit of stick, but he used to give plenty back. Peter Butler. Peter Butler was a teacher, and he used to give you the cane fairly regularly. He was a tough teacher, but I've known Peter, we're good mates in latter life, and he was just doing his job. But I can always remember Miss O'Shea. She was the best looking teacher you have ever seen. I was in love with Miss O'Shea. But I don't think she liked me much. I think she liked Mr. Lip, the French teacher.
I remember one teacher, it was a French teacher, he had actually bad dandruff. And when he bent over you, the dandruff fell onto your desk.
It was one morning when I went to school, went to work. I started at 8. I arrived and this child was at the door with a long overdue library book that he was all with they were always in trouble over it. And I had a new perfume on, which was beautiful, and I thought I was a bit beautiful too. And he said, good morning, Miss. And I said, good morning, Philip. And he said, you smell like cat's piss, Miss. And I said, I beg your pardon, Philip. He said, Miss, you do. You just smell like cat's piss. So anyway, I took his book, I led him into the library, and I said, thank you very much for that. And I smelled myself all the time. And anyway, that was the finish of my beautiful perfume. I put it in the bin.
Well, we had Miss Willie. She used to always wear the little tight little
Yeah,
miniskirts back in those days.
They
used to
with
come
the
up.
high heels. Yes. And how she walked, we used to often be amazed.
We used to, actually, the stairs over there, we used to, as she was going up, every smoke at lunchtime, going back up to class, we used to stand up, trying to get underneath there. As she's, yeah, so.
Pretend he dropped back, he used to pretend he dropped his rubber
Because
or pencil.
she had that habit of dropping money, sort of thing, so I thought I'd just stand at the stairs to catch the money.
He was always dropping his pen or his rubber trying to bend over.
Stairs we used to have to go up. This is what the boys used to do. They'd get under the stairs and guess what they were doing? Looking up the girls' dresses. It was terrible because what we had to do is walk with it, because we had pleated skirts in those days. We used to have to walk with our skirts tucked in so the boys that were underneath couldn't look up our dresses. How rude was
How would
that?
you do that?
Well, like this. We'd have our dresses gathered in and we'd just walk up the steps like that. No, they didn't have X-ray goggles because technology wasn't that good in those days.
Was that real?
I'm talking a lot of years ago, Riley.
How would they see that real?
No, but because the steps had gaps in them.
You there the day that Lester Parnell decked me?
No.
Oh, thank God for that. I can look you in the eye. We were out near the tennis courts and I was talking to the girls in our class and he came up behind me and pulled my pants down. I was mortified, absolutely mortified. I see all the girls in front going like this.
All had a go.
I thought the teachers in those days seemed to be specialists in everything and knew how to do things, yeah.
They said, right, what do you teach? I teach science and maths. Okay. Righto, you've got science and maths for year 8 and you've got some year 12 and 11 maths and things like that, and you've got year 8 art. And I had no idea what to do with the art, and it was probably pretty disastrous. You better ask a year 8 student from 1968 what they learned in art, but I doubt it was very much.
Well, I taught in Brisbane for 2 years and the students were pretty unruly there. So when I came here I said, I'm going to be strict, I'm not going to stand for any nonsense whatsoever. But I needn't have worried because the kids were lovely.
We put potatoes up the teachers' exhaust pipes. That was fun.
I was the school daddy because how it happened, there was 2 little girls come up to me one day and one of them wanted to ask me something. And when she asked me, and she called me Daddy, and the other little girl said, no, your daddy's at home. He's not your daddy, he's Mr. Cray. And she said, but he's my school daddy. So that's how, and then right through, I was called Daddy.
He had a great knack of being able to flick a piece of chalk. Yeah. Probably 10 or 15 metres across the classroom.
That's right.
Fire it like a marble.
Torquell McDonald.
Torquell.
Yeah.
You could throw a duster and bounce it off your head and hit my head. It was like an in-off shot, like a basketball shot. Yeah. He was fantastic, wasn't he? But he made sure you paid attention.
Yeah.
And then I came back teaching in 1968 and I taught until 1982. So that, we moved from this building over into the Barcaldine Centre in 1978, so I taught over there. But I preferred this room because I don't have a loud voice and I can make myself heard here, but it was more difficult to teach over there.
Well, I can remember when she was getting married, we opened the cupboard one day and here's a wedding cake all iced up.
She made her own wedding cake?
Yes, and iced it.
When we started up there, it was board floors and you did a lot of sweeping with straw brooms and the vacuum
Dusty.
cleaners. Yeah, the blackboards, like you had chalk powder everywhere.
Oh, one of the deputy principals decided the polisher looked too heavy for me to use, so he decided I'll use it. So he grabbed hold of the polisher, started polishing and knocked all the tables flying. So he walked off. Yeah, one of the big polishers. Then he walked off in disgust and he said, I'll leave you to it.
Well, one of the most interesting things probably is when you go back into a classroom and you start to teach the second generation, and now I've actually got my third generation starting to come up through the primary school, and you walk into a classroom, particularly when I was doing some relief teaching when my kids were younger, and you'd walk in and you'd look around the classroom and you'd go, I taught both your parents, I taught your mum, I taught your dad, I know you must be a ring-in because I haven't taught anyone in your family. And some of the kids find it really amazing. It's like a Santa Claus sort of thing, you know, you taught my mum? Or they go home and say, do you know do you know Mrs. Pumper? Because she said she taught you. And they come back sort of goggle-eyed to say they have. And it's interesting, I have had a parent say they don't want to come up and have a parent interview with me because that scared me when they were a child, that they didn't want to come back as a parent in case I said something about their parenting.
In the flats, I mean, you can imagine with 13 blokes, there were some times when there might have been parties that might have been a bit out. There were instances where all of us used to go down to the Shakespeare Hotel for tea. was $8 for a 4-course meal, sort of thing. So you went in, you paid, and Louis Sterling, who ran the pub at the time, we would all go down. You'd have some drinks, you'd play darts, and you'd go and have tea, and it was sort of this honour system in paying, sort of thing. So it was very relaxed and whatnot. And then the general thing was you then came home and tipped people out of bed that didn't go, and the guys that got tipped out of bed, they would react by getting up early in the morning and bringing lawnmowers into your room and starting them. So it was that sort of lifestyle, if you see what I mean.
About 26 years.
And I used to go to the library when I was in grade 3, and Mrs. Mansfield was there. And she used to get cranky at me, and I can remember.
And she had a boyfriend at that time, and all she was interested was her boyfriend. Not her schoolwork, her boyfriend.
And Mrs. Mansfield used to get out a 30cm ruler.
Oh yeah, put it between her and the boy.
Students had a beef with one of the teachers, and he put the sprinkler through the window and turned it on in the computer room and wrecked all the computers.
We've had a few snakes though.
Oh yeah, snakes in the classroom.
Yeah, that's a bit of excitement. Yeah.
Who handles the snakes?
Frost.
Anyone but me.
Definitely not me. I'm on the top of the highest.
I'm gone.
Used to get a mouthful of Milo, you know, the chook food, a little round sorghum it is. We used to pull the centres out of the biros and fill your mouth up with the sorghum, and you could really spray people right across the classroom with it. And Mr. Lip was in next door talking to Miss O'Shea, which he did quite regularly. And Jeffrey Plum filled his mouth up full of Milo and started drilling the door between the two classrooms. And just as it started, Mr. Lip opened the door and he got a face full of Milo, which used to sting a bit.
I got in trouble one day, I reckon. I told Jack Kavanagh that history was a waste of time because it was something in the past.
My husband went to this school, and he wasn't altogether a very good boy, because you may have heard mentioned before about Miss Annie Mannane. Well, he had it in for Miss Annie Mannane. He didn't like her for some reason. So in those days they used to have thunderboxes, you know, with the trapdoor at the back and the pan for the man to empty the pan. So anyway, he saw Miss Mannane go to the toilet one day. So as soon as she sat on the toilet, he opened the trapdoor at the back and poked a stick up. Anyway, she raced up to the headmaster and complained about it. Some boy poked a stick up the back of the toilet, you see. So the headmaster lined all the boys in the school up and gave them all the cane till he got to the last 3. My husband was in the last 3, and he said, oh, he got tired of it by then. He said there wouldn't be those 3, so he let them go, so he got away with it.
Mrs. Billy Scott, who actually brought it up to me, about 5 years ago when I first come back out here. She said, did you ever tell your missus about the time you bought, when I had the music class and you let that bloody rat go in the classroom?
It's when we were doing music, and the music teacher, one of the boys in our class who has come back to live in Barcaldine, actually let go a mouse in the class. That wasn't good.
Yeah, so all the girls started screaming and
he probably
jumping up there.
He would have wanted to learn music too.
Yeah.
We've had some funny things happen with the kids, but especially toilets. But other than that.
What's happened in the toilets?
Oh, I can tell you.
You find some interesting things. They decide to cover the ceiling in wet toilet paper and see if they can decorate it. Have a go at interior decorating. And then you get the really adventurous one that decides to put the other stuff all over the wall. Not real nice.
We've had a few plastered walls, eh? I reckon they needed to get on a ladder to do it. Someone would stand on their head.
Probably the day that Mark Dancy and Greg New blew the toilet block.
Oh, that's a good one, yeah.
So they decided one of the loose walls on the old boys' toilet at the back of the buildings here, it had been eaten out with white ants and had a lean on it. Yeah. And that was the days of crackers, where we used to bring crackers. Well, we weren't allowed to bring them to school as such, but everyone used to have crackers. Guy Fawkes night and all that. But the crackers went on for weeks afterwards. It was never just a couple of days. It went for a fortnight or something, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And they were at the back. They decided that they'd fix this building up well and truly. So they planted a couple of explosive thunder crackers, or I think they were penny bungers or something we call them. Yeah. A couple of those went into the slots where the white ants were, and they sort of give themselves away because we had the classroom beside them. They come charging out of the building and race back to the classroom, both together. Within about 10 seconds of them getting to the door, there's an almighty double explosion and the whole wall fell over off this toilet block. And I think you can imagine the bedlam. There was teachers going everywhere and school kids going everywhere, and everyone's laughing because it's such a sight to see this wall just disappear, fall to the ground. Yeah?
We used to play games like Red Rover and things like that, didn't we? All Red Rover, one side raced across the
When it was wet, we played under the school here from Puss in the Corner. We used to play.
There was a girl, like Gloria Thompson, and Gloria was quite big, now passed on unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, the girls would, when we tried to catch him to kiss him, run behind Gloria. And none of us were going to go near Gloria because she could bash the bottom. So.
Well, you had 4 corners like that, and you had a person, and one in the middle, and one at the corner would call Puss Puss, come and eat the sausage off the saucer, and he'd come across, and the one in the middle had to try and catch you.
Jerry Fogarty had more marbles than any of us because he'd wait until the school bell rang, and he used to run through the marble rings and pick the marbles up in his toes and collect them that way. So he's had lots of marbles.
Has he lost his marbles then?
Yes, but I got 300 marbles once. One of my school friends, Kay Spanner, asked me to sit with her at the pictures on Friday night, and I said no. And she said, I'll give you some marbles. So I sat with her at the pictures on Friday night. She gave me 300 marbles. So that was pretty special.
But it was lovely in the school where you had those 3 beautiful big gum trees, and we had a lot of our games and that there.
And they were cementing in a swing. There was a big limb just snapped off, there was no wind, and it just fell down right alongside of these chaps that are working there, and nearly hit one fella, but it missed him. So it was a really close call, and if it had hit him, it would have killed him, I reckon.
Rack-a-tacka, bim bum ba, barky, barky, best boy ba. In our colours, green and black, we're the leaders of the track. B-A-R-C-Y, barky!
Sturt house, yellow and bold. Sturt house, gold, gold, gold. Yeah, I remember that.
Flinders, are you ready? Are we ever?
That's about all we can remember.
That's about it.
I thought it was always boom chicka boom chicka boom chicka boom.
That was the yellow one, or was that blue one? Yeah, we liked
I've
that one.
got the wrong one.
Nice and jazzy.
Beauty. I know we were green. Flinders was green. Cook was yellow, blue, and Sturt was yellow. They were the 3 houses.
Jericho, Jericho, rah, rah, rah! Jericho, Jericho, here we are! We fight hard, we fight clean! Jericho, Jericho, gold and green! Jericho, Jericho! Another little one. Jericho, Jericho, bit by bit! Barky, barky, dip this!
That's it, that's all.
Take a bow.
Thank God. Oh gosh, there'll be some editing here.
Joey's, yeah, they used to have a little chant, I can't remember. And we used to have it state sitting on the gate, things like that. Yeah,
exactly
I can't
right,
remember.
yeah.
I can't remember the rest of it, Lizzie, but yeah. They didn't like us and we didn't like them when we were young.
They liked us when we came over.
Yeah, that's right. Different story.
Got to know.
We brought such talent across.
We used to say, don't you remember, dear Shirley? State, state, ring the bell while the convents march to hell. And they used to say that about us then, convent, ring the bell while the states march to hell. But the boys used to get on a corner and meet you after. State and convent used to have a punch-up.
Did they they tell you about the fights between the convent and the state?
I've had a couple of people, but I'd like to go on with that.
Yes.
Well, all right, you know
They
about
hated one another. After school, they used to meet at the Masonic corner. They'd fight.
Oh.
Yeah.
In our day, it used to be the park. We'd all meet at the park.
Oh, well, it was my days was the Masonic corner.
The girls used to have a bit of a hair pulling and fights in the
Oh,
park.
goodness
Yeah.
me, I didn't know that.
Gee, neither did I, Jan. We must have been little
That's
goody
about all
two-shoes.
of
We probably went straight home from school.
Yeah, did the right thing.
Well, we had a thing going against the St Joey's kids. They were deprived of all the vitamin C fruits that we used to have. We had citrus fruit.
Yeah.
We had the Burdekin plums. We had the bees in the backyard there where we raided the beehives. And the occasional swarm took over the school. We had to evacuate the school a couple of times.
And then we also had some projects. I think our grade planted the citrus plot when it started, didn't we?
The citrus orchard was actually started when I was here, when I was at school.
And of course, it was a sitting duck. You could always raid it at a night time.
And did you?
Yes, or a little bit, but paid for it the next day. We'd go down the corner, under the light, corner light, and eat the fruit we'd pinched.
And how did you pay for it?
What do you think? You'd get the runs, gastric, from eating the fruit, eating all the fruit that you picked. See, the good Lord punished us, didn't he?
Had lemon trees, orange trees, mandarin trees. We used to take them and tend to them. And they also had a beehive there. Another class used to tend those. So I think they used to ship them off to Brisbane and everything. They were huge. Big oranges like that. They were lovely. We used to buy them for 5 cents each.
But we only had it the last year at school. We had trees to look after, and we used to sell the fruit for a penny each at morning tea time, as you call it now, or whatever you call it now. Yeah.
There's a couple of guys talking there about eating the plums from the headmaster's office. It was more. We got into more trouble for throwing them at the wall at the end of the school. It was a lot of brown marks or purple marks at the end of the school.
I think they used to sell the fruit, didn't they? Or give the fruit to the hospitals or something?
But still, I can't remember. 10 dozen a tree was as I remember from those days.
Yeah, well, we had the Rhode Island Red chickens.
Yeah,
that
chickens,
was our club.
yeah.
The chooks.
Yep.
And another section, which Dorothy Wheeler belonged to, they had bees. And one day she was holding up one of the frames with all the bees in it, and one of the boys out of her class put a bee on her leg, and she just screamed, blue bird. The beehives.
Beehives. We
We
had
sold the honey
beehives
at the school.
through school.
Did you ever have problems with the bees? Did they ever?
We never dressed up, did we?
No,
we
we
used
just
to
went
put a
in.
hat on.
Yeah.
No.
We must have went in when they were working, I think.
Yeah, only a hat over your head.
Yeah, we're busy little bees, yes, yeah.
I do remember the swarms of bees that our bee club did create. I can remember a big swarm in the park here once when we were having a picnic, which wasn't much fun. A lot of us got stung. Luckily, I don't think there was any such thing as anaphylactic shock in those days, but we got bitten quite a lot.
And one day we were making toffee, and the bees decided to swarm, and they came in these windows, and all the girls were running around, and some of them were saying, "If a bee bites me, Mrs. Scott, I'll die," and oh. So they were running into the laundry, and I was trying to keep them all calm. But anyway, nobody got bitten, thank goodness.
But they had a separate building for the manual arts and domestic science, and all at the up the top was the domestic science, and underneath was the manual arts. And I always remember that when the girls did cooking of some description, we'd lean out the window and throw the little cakes down to the boys. They'd be out there catching them, didn't they?
I don't remember that.
Oh, do you? I do.
The milk days, when the train used to bring the little bottles of milk, and they had monitors from each class used to have to go down in the mornings and punch a little hole in the top of the milk and put a little straw in there, and at little lunch everyone got a tiny bottle of milk. That was probably something I can remember quite clearly.
I hated the milk, so I always liked a flavoured straw in mine. I didn't like the taste of the milk.
And our drink of milk every morning?
Oh, I hated milk.
Yes, but we had to have,
have
a bottle of milk every morning.
Yeah, I always gave it to someone else.
Just to line up.
You had to drink all of it,
whether you liked it or not.
Sometimes it used to be left sitting in the sun, and then you'd have the oil sitting on the top of the bottle. Yeah.
Footballers went through undefeated, and Heck Walters was the headmaster. He decided to give them the party at the end of the football season and had a big cake made.
When I came, I found a whole lot of dirty tablecloths in the laundry, and I just found out that's because they had a party. Heck Walters was the headmaster at that time, and apparently they had a party for the footballers, so it was up to me then to wash all the tablecloths when I arrived.
How our basketball team and the boys' football team, we all went on the excursion train that went from Barcaldine through to Emerald.
Yeah.
Not Emerald, Winton, and we'd all climb in. They'd have a special carriage for the school kids and a special carriage for the footballers. And once we were on the road, the boys would all climb in, get in with the girls, and we'd all mix and cuddle.
I mean, we used to travel in some fairly what I'd call primitive transport when we were going to play inter-school sports in other towns. Like the classic transport in my time was they'd get David Thompson's truck with the cattle crate on the back, and they'd put a couple of mattresses in the back, and they'd shove us in there and lock us in. And you know, there was no roof or anything like that. You just travelled to Aramac or Blackall or Longreach on dirt roads in the back of this truck.
Miss Archibald took us on our first trip. We went to Winton and played basketball on the train, and it was marvellous, we thought. It was our first trip away, and it was Mrs. Hartland, Miss Archibald.
How long did it take you to get from here up to Winton on the train?
Oh, probably
5 hours.
5 hours.
We used to leave here on football
Excursion at midnight and get that at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay.
Every Friday night we'd have boxing tournaments in the Shire Hall, and Mr. Bell from Barcaldine Station, who was the Queensland heavyweight champion, used to come out and teach us all boxing and put us all in our weight divisions, and it was a great sport and something that I fondly remember, the boxing lessons after school underneath the old school, and of course playing marbles.
When we were in the real old library in the old school, we packed stacks of books like so over the school holidays from December, and when we got back in January, the white ants had eaten right through these books, right up into the science room at the school.
Yeah, the white ants had fun in the science lab.
Took over.
Yeah, eating half the books and come from the art room downstairs up through the wall into the science.
And I had made this trolley, and you could put 4 wheelie bins on it, and the children, when I go to get to pick up the bins, some of the children would hop on the trolley and I'd pull them along until they got to the first lot of bins, and then they'd have to get off, see, so I had to put the bins on.
But I think that it's always stayed a good school, that in some other towns a lot of kids went away to boarding school. That does happen with some families here, but I think that there's been a fairly strong feeling for the school in the community, and I think that it does move on. You know, this is where we went to school, and I think it was probably a real tear for some people to move from the old school to the new school.
Oh, just good, country friendly people.
Good Western people, mate.
Didn't hurt us. Cane.
Good smoking men, smoking.
You know, you have the bad school teachers, but gee, there's been some good ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've got this connection that we went for a long time where we didn't come back, but now as time has got on, yeah, there is a draw. There is a draw, and there's something about, well, Barcaldine and Barcaldine people. There is, and the school is special. There's no doubt about that. The school is special. You do end up with a soft spot for it.
Yeah, just the fact that you know everyone, and everyone's your friend.
We're all just saying before, you know, how lucky we were as a class. There was no bullying or nastiness. We all got on fairly well. I mean, we all had, you know, blues, but we all got on fairly well. And
Yeah, I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. If I had to work, I'd sooner work here than anywhere else. I quite enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah, ups and downs, eh?
Yeah.
Different memories.
And what class were you in?
I like the small community. It is nice to know all the teachers and know all the students. So if you need help with something, you know where to go and you're not scared to ask about it.
And it's nice, you know, like walking in the park, you can say hello to every single person and you know all of them.
It was an experience that I never experienced again in my whole teaching career. It was clearly the best school I've ever taught in, and the most enjoyable place I ever taught in.
Just chuck up. Brody, Brody, I thought you put that on silent. Brody, you need to...
Yes, I'm turning it clean off.
Turn it clean off right now.
Show off your light. I live to let you shine. I live to let you shine. And you can skyrocket away from me. Never come back till you find another galaxy far from here, where there's more room to fly. Just leave me your stardust to remember you. Be my boat, I'll be your sea, a depth of pure blue just to probe curiosity, ebbing and flowing, pushed by a breeze. I live to let you free, I live to set you free, and you can set sail to the west if you want to. This is Barcaldine State School. Bad for everyone who had to go through this.
Yeah, exactly.
Haven't you got any hearing aids in?
No.
In your pocket.
Are you recording this? Are you recording this? This is gold right now.
Probably home in the drawer. In the box. At home in the box. Good luck.
I didn't know anything was going on, did I?
But didn't you have them at the meeting either?
No.
Dewey.
You don't want to wear them all out in one day.
Hi, my name's Jed.
No, it's not Jed.
A hysterical document.
Hysterical. that's what she said. She's like,
Okay, one more time. That's good. That's good.
Consider the historic education that. You should have said hey.
what are you doing?
Go back.